Welcome to the Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. I'm your host, Tom Nelson, and I know firsthand as a family caregiver and part of the sandwich generation how tough it can be to take care of your aging parents while balancing your own life, career, and family. We'll bring you the experts and information necessary to help make your life a little bit easier and you a little bit smarter. Synergy Sessions is brought to you by Synergy Home Care, bringing you personalized in-home care and peace of mind to Silicon Valley families. I really do hope you enjoy the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. I'm so excited today to have Deborah Rothschild. She is the owner and operator of ToughAgers LLC, which is a exercise company and many dimensions. So I just wanted to read a little bit about ToughAgers. ToughAgers are dedicated to empowering older adults to thrive through fitness that builds strength and resilience. Our mission is to provide accessible, engaging, and personalized fitness experience that inspire confidence and enhance well-being. So thank you so much for being here on the podcast today, Deborah.
Thank you, Tom, for inviting me.
So I'm really excited because, as you know, we've talked about this. So fitness is my background, especially working with people of various types of disabilities and ages and ability levels. And, we were talking earlier that I think one of the things that's so impressive with you is that you've really invested a lot of time and effort to make sure you're informed and prepared and ready to work with people of all challenges and opportunities to improve quality of life. So I wanted to just run through a little bit without embarrassing you too much, because I think it's super important to let people know. So you have a master's of science in exercise science with an emphasis on fitness and wellness, a BA in Bachelor of Arts in Child Development. You have certified personal training certifications from NASM, ACE. You have a senior fitness specialist from ACE, from a brain health trainer, cancer recovery specialist. You have a group exercise instructor certification through AFA, joint replacement fitness specialist, bone health osteoporosis foundation, bone fit instructor, Parkinson's certified instructor, on top of 20 years experience. And you are currently a fitness educator, conference presenter, and continuing education provider. So that's huge. So you're all in. This isn't a weekend part-time gig for you. You're all in on this as your career. So kudos to you. That is quite the resume. So
thank you.
Backing up. So tell us a little bit about kind of yourself and your role, and about your company and what you do in general for seniors and beyond.
Sounds good. So to back it up a little, yes, I have a bachelor's in child development. My first career was as a Montessori school teacher, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And it's fascinating because flash forward, when I started working with clients diagnosed with dementia, I found out that they're now applying that same Montessori philosophy that I learned decades ago to apply to children. They're now applying that to working with people with dementia. So
wow,
fascinating. And I took another course on that because I wanted to learn how to add that to my resume, how they're applying that same Montessori philosophy to working with people diagnosed with dementia.
Wow.
So anyway, so I left teaching after having 3 kids of my own and deciding I wanted to work with adults more. So I started my fitness career in 2003. And that's when I started all my education and my path, and worked in every type of role, as you know, in the fitness industry that you could possibly have as far as management. And in 2015, took a lower position at a swim and racket club. And that's when I really started focusing on seniors because I was the group exercise director there, and they had a class on the schedule that was for active older adults. And being the director and having the instructor leave, the class became mine. And so I really had to hone my skills on working with active older adults, and then kind of became the trainer that you go to if you're a senior at that same club. And so, hence the joint replacement, the
Mhm.
osteoarthritis, the cancer, all the
Right.
unfortunate things that can happen to us as we age. So, I had to
Right.
educate myself more and more. And so at that club, that's how I started my ToughAgers program, which
Mhm.
is how to work with active older adults in
Mhm.
a group setting and one on one and small group training. So then COVID hit, right? We all kind of
Mhm.
responded to that differently. My
Right.
career went on Zoom for a while
Yeah.
and started teaching live Zoom classes to those active older adults. And then it just kind of morphed from there. I joined a networking group, met some care managers and some
Mhm.
fiduciaries. They started talking to me about their clients with dementia,
Mhm.
with Parkinson's. And so now I go into senior living communities, I go into people's homes, and I work
Mhm.
one on one with clients.
And then also, on top of all that, you're educating and elevating instructors with your Tough Agers training program to help train others to do or to work more effectively with active older.
Absolutely. So once I figured out how to work with this group at the
Yeah.
Small Swim and Racket Club, the seniors said, "Great, now go teach other fitness
Mhm.
professionals to do what you do. So if we need a sub, they know how to work with us." Because
Right.
honestly, I mean, you've been in the industry for a
Mhm.
very long time. We didn't have such a huge population of active older adults,
Right.
right? So this is a population that I feel like the fitness industry, we're finally
Mhm.
figuring them out, but it
Yeah.
wasn't, when I took my master's
Right.
degree program years ago, it wasn't a big population back then.
Right. So that's a great point. So I'm going to super date myself, but I think I was one of the first presenters at the Idea Aging and Exercise Conference. I think it was the second annual Aging and Exercise conference in Florida in Orlando. And I had a side business where we were doing senior fitness programs. And it was amazing because we went and did this program and we were the co-presenters. So we were much younger than I am right now, and me and my partner. And we presented with all these people that I was learning about in my master's program. So the people that were writing the journal articles, Pollack and Westcott and all these guys that were out there, they were also the other presenters. So I was a little starstruck academically. But my point is, all the programs were based on chair fitness and really that lower, more frail or less ability type senior. So, what is the distinction with the active older adult? Because when we were talking earlier, you said they were coming to you saying, "Hey, nobody knows how to work with us." So, what's the difference? Because I think most people conjure up the image of a senior they have less ability and they're more frail and you think the chair type program. So what is the difference?
Right. Right. So, I mean, we all know these active older adults, right? They're playing pickleball, tennis, they're
Mhm.
hiking, they're taking care of their grandkids, they're
Mhm.
just seizing the moment and enjoying
Mhm.
life. So, I think because they have remained so active, and I'd like to touch on certain things that happen as we age if we don't remain active in a little bit, if that's okay. But
Yeah.
because they have embraced life and kept moving, their bodies can do amazing things.
Mhm.
And yet, we can't put them all into one group. So there's still
Right.
different levels.
Sure.
So I think the important thing when you're working with older adults as a fitness professional, whether in a large group or a small group, is to offer options, or I call them
Mhm.
challenges when you're
Mhm.
doing exercises. So, for example, I'll start off with a strength exercise, and then I'll say, for those of you who want a balance challenge, maybe
Mhm.
you stand on one leg. Or those of you want to add a combination balance challenge, maybe you do this. So I throw out
Uh-huh.
different challenges for people to take that challenge. Maybe today's a good balance day, or maybe
Right.
it's not such a good balance
Mhm.
day, but still be part of the group and still
Mhm.
be what I like to say is let's work within a range that's challenging and doable. So we
Yeah.
always want to have a little bit of a challenge, right? That's how we get stronger.
Yeah.
That's how we get to move faster. Our reaction time is faster, but it has to be doable.
Mhm.
And with the cardio, I don't do a lot of choreography. I
Mhm.
stick with basic athletic movements
Mhm.
that we do in daily life, stay with a
Yeah.
movement for a period of time, that type of thing. So they can focus more on, okay, I'm just going to get my heart rate up instead of worrying about, okay, everybody's going left and I'm going
Yeah.
right and I'm embarrassed.
Right.
So it allows everybody to kind of be at their own level and move together. And then there are the concerns that happen as we age. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men over 50 have osteoporosis,
Mm.
and which is just staggering, right? That's a huge
Mhm.
number. And a lot of people don't even know they have it because they usually don't
Yeah.
test until later in life. So, what I do in the Tough Agers program is I just follow the protocols as if everybody has these concerns. So, we're
Okay.
not doing any movements that would be bad for somebody who has low bone density.
Yeah. That's great. And also mentioning what you're mentioning about the choreography, there's people that are awkward and can't follow a choreography at all ages. So that's
Right,
great that you're kind
right.
of taking that out of the equation and focusing on successes and set everybody up for success. And I'm sure if they're really into Zumba or what, they can take another class
Yes,
and do just fine.
absolutely.
So you had mentioned, so this is a good segue. So I myself, and every time you're saying, people the 50 over 50, I'm in that category. I'm still coming to grips with that because I don't feel that way. But I know when I started my home care business 5 years ago, I was much more sedentary than I'd been because anytime you're starting a business, that's your focus. And I noticed my decline was much faster than in previous years because of I mean, I've never been this age and I've never been this sedentary in my life, my type of job. So what happens? We're talking about people right now who have maintained this level of activity and they're active, older adults. What happens if they don't do that? And is there kind of a magic age that maybe people should not specifically not neglect?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's lots of things, of course, that
Mhm.
go on with our body as we
Yep.
age. The one that I've really been focusing on lately is what happens to our neuromotor system.
Okay.
So I'm going to explain what that is. And I like to use
Mhm.
a lot of analogies because that's how I
Sure.
learn is
Yeah.
analogies. Uh, So I like to use the analogy with the neuromotor system that it's like an orchestra. So in an
Mhm.
orchestra, you have your conductor, you have your musicians, and you have the specific musical piece that that
Mhm.
conductor wants the musicians to play. Right.
Okay.
So if the conductor is doing a good job, the musicians are able to play that musical
Mhm.
piece. But what happens if the conductor is not doing a good job?
Mm.
So, in this analogy, the conductor is our brain and our spinal centers. The musicians are our muscles, and the magnificent musical piece is movement.
Okay.
So, what happens starting age 30, our neuromuscular system starts to decline. So that will affect reaction time,
Mhm.
muscle strength, ability to maintain balance. All
Mhm.
those are affected. So the decline can increase, so decline more rapidly due to
Mhm.
inactivity,
Yeah.
deconditioning, and certain injuries to the muscular system and the neurological system.
Mhm.
So the neuromotor system is it's every movement we make throughout the day. It's controlling that. So if you
Yep.
think about that, that's pretty amazing.
Mhm.
So the ability for 85-year-olds to still play pickleball, right? To respond quickly
Mhm.
and move. That system is really working well
Yep.
because they have maintained that level of
Yep.
activity. So that's age 30.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I noticed just that I read something recently about that's why people are falling when they get to a certain age because you're in your mind, you're not aware that this is happening. And when you lose your balance and your proprioception or your ability to right yourself is now not working at the speed it needs to work, that's when people go down. Wow. So that was the
Absolutely.
neuromuscular system. Any other areas of
Yes.
decline?
So I know you know about sarcopenia, which is
Mm,
the loss of muscle as we age. So that tends to really the loss and seems to increase starting age 50. We
mhm,
lose about 1 to 2% of muscle mass per year between
mm,
50 and 60. And then starting age 60, we typically lose 3% of our muscle strength every year. So this is if you're not doing anything to counteract
mm.
that, right?
Okay.
So that's what happens. And then when we talked about osteoporosis, so just fragile bones, even if it's not even to the point where your osteoporosis heading towards osteopenia, that starts to 40.
Okay. Wow. Wow. And then how about like the cardiovascular system?
Mhm.
Just, heart, lungs, and your circulatory.
Yes,
This,
that's lifelong. I mean, I'm
yeah.
sure we all know people who are young people
Hmm.
who are completely out of shape. We think
Yeah.
we forget a lot of times we forget, the heart is a muscle and, it needs to be worked just like
Right.
a muscle needs to be worked. I
Yeah.
kind of look at, as I speak to older adults and use my
Hmm.
analogies, it's like tending a garden, right? A beautiful garden takes a lot of work. There's a
Yeah.
lot of watering
Yes.
and weeding, and I definitely don't have a green thumb. So I don't have one of those beautiful gardens, but it's a
Mhm.
lot of work, and you can think about the body and all aspects of the body as the same way. If you neglect your garden, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's what happens if you don't. So let's say they're watching this podcast and go, "Oh my gosh, I've been sedentary and I feel like that's happening to me because I'm feeling not as quick on my feet or whatever." So if they started, so are those things, can you slow them down, reverse them? I don't think you can stop them. It's just
Slow them down, put the brakes
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
even with, doing for the neuromuscular system, there's
Mhm,
lots of very simple neuromotor exercises you
mhm,
can do. So I work with people at all levels, right? So I
mhm.
have some people who, in order to stand, they need the assistance of a walker, right?
Right.
So a neuromotor exercise for them could be, trying to stand, not holding their walker, that
Right.
type of thing. So we work on balance. We also
Mhm.
work on a visual sense. So even
Okay.
standing, holding onto the walker, but maybe they
Mhm.
briefly close their eyes, that type
Okay.
of thing to kind of challenge that, stepping side to side. How many side steps can you take? Time, how many side steps in like 30 seconds? And then
Right.
each time you do it, can I add more steps
Mhm.
in? So am I getting my body to move a little bit more quickly? So that's the
Right.
little things can come big, have big effects in the
Yep.
neuromuscular system. Of course, strength training is really key
Yep.
as we age. It doesn't have to be anything, scary. It
Mhm.
can be, a simple resistance band or some light weights. And then cardio, even a lot of my clients, like my clients with Parkinson's, I'll have them
Mhm.
hold on to a countertop. We'll
Yep.
do things like marching and,
Right.
side, walking along the counter, that type of thing. So it can be done in a manner that's they're feeling safe, but
Yeah.
they're actually moving.
Yeah. That's great. And then and how would you approach, so you just mentioned like different types of disabilities or diseases, but how would you approach somebody who's just a beginner? Because I know one of the things that people typically do is when they start an exercise program again, is they remember when they used to exercise, if they did when they were in their 20s or whatever, and then they completely overdo it. And so how do you approach, or
Absolutely.
maybe some precautions for people starting out?
Right.
Especially if they're not working specifically with you, maybe they're somewhere else in the world that, but they
Right.
wanna get started.
Right. So, as a fitness professional, we always look at where somebody is, right? So that's
Mhm.
why when we first, start working with a client, we kind of find out what are they already doing. So
Yep.
I would recommend for them look at, what are you already doing? Are you already
Mhm.
walking? Are you Are you already riding a bike? What are you already
Mhm.
doing? And then can you do it for longer?
Yep.
So let's add 5 more minutes to that walk
Yep.
this week and see how your body feels, that type of
Got it.
thing. So we take them where they're at. Are you doing no resistance training at all? Okay, it's
Mhm.
time to start. I would
Yeah.
say a light dumbbell or light
Mhm.
resistance band, or even
Mhm.
just body weight.
Yeah.
There's these 4 exercises that the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation recommend. They call them the Fab 4 for
Mhm.
beginning exercisers. So these would be great as well. So one is just wall push-ups.
Mhm.
So just doing, and the farther you step back, of course, the harder it is, but
Right.
wall push-ups for your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps. If you're not doing any leg exercises, you could do a sit to stand, right? Sit
Mhm.
down in a chair, stand up, sit down,
Yeah.
stand up, and then that can be progressed to a squat.
Yeah.
Heel raises for lower
Mhm.
legs are
Mhm.
recommended, and they call it draw the sword. They also call it the sash. So you have a
Uh-huh.
band and then you pull it up and out like you're drawing a sword. So
Right.
that is for the back of the shoulder and the upper
Mhm.
back. So those are the Fab 4
Mhm.
exercises that they recommend. And for those, the
Okay.
only equipment you would need is a resistance band for the
Right.
draw the sword.
And I would, while you were talking, I was thinking people should probably aim for less resistance than they think they can do because they'll probably overestimate what they can do. And it's better to start slower and get a good benchmark on where they're at. Like you were saying, where are they at right now instead of trying to go too hard?
Right. And then I just want to add, if you
Hmm.
do have osteoarthritis, which is very common, unfortunately, you want to look for the reaction of your joint after your
Hmm.
workout versus the reaction of the muscle,
Oh,
because the muscle might be able to handle it, but what you did might have been too much for your knees. So
got
then,
it.
modify it by doing less.
Point. And I think the overarching thing here is like you've got a new body. That's
Yes.
not the same as
Yes.
you're used to, so paying attention to all those things, that's great advice. I wanna shift gears a little bit. So you are training other instructors with your training program. What, components and we'll just stick with, I think kind of broad, active older adults or really anybody coming into the program. What are the primary components that you're training to make sure somebody's getting a good, well-rounded program that's gonna carry them forward to a quality life.
Right. So, good question. So, the feedback I have received from older adults that I work with is if
Mhm.
I'm not standing right in front of them, they're not exercising.
Okay.
So, what that told me is that if I have them as a group exercise
Mhm.
instructor for 3 hours a week,
Mhm.
I need to get all aspects of
Mhm.
fitness in that time.
Got
Because
it.
if I tell them, okay, now go take a Zumba class or go
Mhm.
take an aqua aerobics class, they're not going to do it because they've already
Right.
told me they're not going to do it. So it's important to me to get everything they need in the time that I have them with me. So the Tough
Mhm.
Agers program, what I teach the instructors is we need to put it all in there. So we need the low
Mhm.
impact cardio, and I do like a 4 minute interval, which is just as moving as fast as you can, kind of
Right.
interval, balance, strength, core, flexibility. Within all of that, we add the neuromotor exercises,
Mhm.
range of motion, mobility, all those aspects are really important as well. I just sneak them in. So, for
Yeah.
example, we'll do doing cardio, and then I want everybody to catch up, take a little break. Okay, everybody
Mm.
march. And then we do an upper body mobility exercise.
Mhm.
That was we're marching. And then we go
Oh.
back to, something else. So I'm getting everything in there that they
Mhm.
need. They're having fun. And like I said, I want it to be for all levels so that, what does active older adult mean? It
Mhm.
just basically means we don't use chairs and that type of thing. And then the
Right.
focusing on the posture, because if we have poor posture, of course, we're more apt to fall. Plus,
Yeah.
poor posture puts more wear and tear on our joints, our ligaments, and our bones,
Mm.
and they're more likely to injure themselves. So, emphasis on posture and little
Mhm.
cues on how to remind people, how to stand properly and proper cueing so people can understand.
Got it. Are there any safety concerns or things that you make sure the instructors or even the participants are aware of, not only when they're starting a program, but also when they're, when they're involved in a program, whether they've done it once or a lot of different, or they're in a program for a while?
Absolutely. So
Mm,
I'm always telling them, listen to your body, right? We
mhm.
don't work through pain. We absolutely
Right.
don't do that, right? Pain is the body telling you it's time to stop. So, like I said, I offer options. For example, some people don't want to do squats, or when they do
Mhm,
squats, it hurts their knees. So whenever I'm introducing an exercise where, I say, okay, for those of you that want to join me, let's do a squat. For those of you who don't want to do a squat, give me a heel lift.
mhm.
So there's always options. And then if you're doing a squat, some people can only go down a little bit, right? So I tell
Mhm.
them just stay within your pain-free range of motion. So
Right.
maybe they can do that exercise, but it's just not as deep, but that's
Yeah.
fine. And then a lot of times when people do upper body exercises, they feel stress in their
Mhm.
neck. And
Yeah.
so, I really try to listen to your body. It's telling you
Mhm.
something's wrong. So maybe it's if you hold the weight closer to you, it'll be easier. Or maybe the
Yeah.
weight's too heavy. Or maybe you don't lift the weight so high. So
Mhm.
there's always ways to modify it. So I would suggest to people who are taking classes that aren't tough agers classes,
Mm.
if the instructor's not giving you those types of options, I would go up to them after class and explain,
Right.
what's happening so that
Yeah.
they can give you advice on how to
Yeah.
modify it.
Well, I know too, also when people are learning new things and they're a little stressed out, a lot of times they do this. It's just a
Yes.
natural kind of tension that happens, and to be
Yes.
aware of that, because when you said that, that's the first thing I thought of. Because I remember when I taught different older adult group exercise classes, half the class was telling everybody to relax their shoulders down because they're so
Yes.
concentrating on the exercise that they're doing this and until they got used to
Yes.
it.
It's so true.
That's
And reminding people to
mm.
breathe, right? Because we're telling
Yes.
them, do this with your arm, do this with your leg,
Yeah.
do this, do that. And they're like, okay,
Yeah.
everybody, inhale, exhale.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're so used to all that as, fitness professionals, that people are doing all these things. It's almost like the patting your head and rubbing your stomach kind of thing. They can't do all those things at one time. So I guess breathing loses and they just hold their breath while they're trying to do all those things.
Yes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
when we're trying to balance, for some
Yeah.
reason, when we try to balance, it's just a natural thing. So
Right.
he's kind of trying to cue that. And I do
Right.
give people the option, you know what, just focus on the legs or just focus on the
Right.
arms, because, like you said, it is a lot to think about
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
beginners.
Absolutely. So I wanted to move forward a little bit. So we've talked about the active older adults. And let's say we've gone a little bit older, or they were active older adults, but now they have one of these, you know, diseases that you're certified in. So they have dementia, have Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or some of these things. And I would imagine the general, perception is that, well, they can't do that, or it won't be helpful for them, or so. So, how do you approach those folks that maybe, what is the benefit of somebody who has some of these, issues and don't think they can even participate in something like this because they feel like it's beyond them, and maybe there's no, what's the use? I've already got this, you know. So how do you approach that? And what are you seeing in the people that you're working with that have Parkinson's or dementia, or, you pick one. There's so many.
Yes, unfortunately, yes, there are. Fall prevention
Mhm.
is huge with Parkinson's, dementia, and unfortunately, people with dementia are twice as likely to fall as their
Uh-huh.
peers, and
Yeah.
3 times as more likely to get injured if they fall
Okay.
than their peers.
Mhm.
Uh, so, if nothing else, if I can just convince them that exercise helps with fall prevention, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
Because what the statistics are like 1 in 4 older adults fall
Hmm.
each year. It's super, super
Yeah.
high. And exercise absolutely helps to keep the body strong and
Hmm.
fall prevention. The most recent client I'm thinking of, I was hired last year.
Hmm.
He's in his 90s. I was hired by the adult children because their father had fallen 6 times in 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, every time he falls, they have to rush him
Hmm.
to the emergency room, as they
Yeah.
should, to make sure that there's no major injury or,
Sure.
anything happened to his brain. So, they were kind of at their wits' end. And their
Hmm.
care manager had worked with her before. She said,
Hmm.
I really think you should call Deborah. And so
Yeah.
they did. And what I do is, because the client himself, he was hesitant, so I
Hmm.
do what I call a meet and greet,
Okay.
and there's no charge to the client. I
Hmm.
come, I ask that who's ever bringing me in is there too,
Uh-huh.
and we just have a conversation.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's scary until, you meet the person, right?
Yeah.
And I,
Right.
I bring the equipment that I use so that, I can kind of show them, and we talk
Yeah.
about it, and I talk about the benefits of these types of things. And
Hmm.
usually that's all it takes. Sometimes
Yeah.
I have to talk to the person who wants to hire me, but the client is hesitant. Who does this client respect, look up to? Is
Hmm.
it their physician? Is it some other person in their life? Because
Hmm.
maybe if that person says, you know what, exercise would really benefit you, that will hopefully help encourage them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Exercise is hard for people that don't have problems and aren't older or so what do you do and what advice do you have for people to stick with the program or how do you set people up for success and how can the families of older adults if they're active older adults are already kind of motivated they've already experienced the benefits but somebody who's starting a program or if they have dementia or Parkinson's or osteoarthritis or all the different other things that make it a little more challenging. But what's your advice for setting them up for success and how can their loved ones support them?
Yeah. So I think we all do better when we're on a schedule.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Especially people with I've found, especially people with dementia, because it's
Mhm.
very predictable. This is what I
Yeah,
do at this time, right?
yeah.
And I think for most of us, if we didn't put exercise into our schedule, it's not like,
Mhm.
oh, when I have time,
Yeah,
because who has time?
no one.
So I really recommend looking at the schedule for,
Mhm,
whether it's for themselves or for a senior in their life, and
mhm.
kind of figuring out what's realistically going to work on a
Right.
consistent basis, right? Because
Mhm,
it has to be consistent. We do one workout once a month. The benefits are probably very, very minimal, although I'd be happy if that's the only
mhm.
thing that I could get them to
Right.
do to start off with. Um, so I think that's really important. And then, helping older adults find opportunities to exercise, right? Whether it's taking them somewhere,
Mhm,
whether it's, getting them more involved. I know a lot of older adults are in these senior living communities and
mhm,
don't take advantage of the
mhm.
classes, the
Right.
activities, the walks. So,
Mhm,
kind of trying to help get them more engaged. In that sense. And I do find that sometimes it does take a loved one to do those classes with them
mhm.
to get them started, right? Go to the
Yeah,
first few classes with them, encourage them, take the class too. It's fun.
yeah, yeah,
And that way too, then the senior can meet other people, see that,
yeah.
oh, there's other people at my level. It's not so
Right.
intimidating, that type of thing. And I encourage family members or, care managers or fiduciaries who hire me to
Mhm.
observe my sessions, be
Yeah.
there with your client, support your
Mhm.
client. And usually it only lasts a few times and then their client's like, okay, go away.
Yeah. Right. Well, and we were been primarily talking about fitness and exercise related to seniors, but the social component is such a huge piece of wellness. I
Right.
mean, I think one of the biggest causes of morbidity is loneliness and isolation and all those things. So it's also a great opportunity. And I think, a reason why people will do exercise with others, because if exercise is the reason they're together, the reason why they stay or the reason why they continue is the connection and
Right.
the relationship. And you know that as an instructor, I'm sure your students light up. Like, I'm sure you're looking forward to see them as well. And so it goes both ways. And I know also in my business, our caregivers will help our clients continue with their physical therapy or whatever. Because you know what, the physical therapist gives them the exercises, and then everybody like put it like in the stack of magazines or whatever, and then it disappears. But unless you
Yes.
have somebody that's doing it with you, now you're
Right.
engaging. You're doing the things, but you're also engaging and you're having a conversation and you're interacting, and there's a lot of value that also feeds into that overall well-being of people as well. And that's not to be underestimated, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we went on Zoom because of COVID, I'm talking
Hmm.
about my active older adults,
Yeah.
they'd always want that 5 minutes before I started the music just to
Yeah.
chat with each other, in
Yeah.
the Brady Bunch boxes, I call it.
Right.
And then after class, they wanna chat, and then when it became safe, they're like, "Can we have potluck?" So, it's
Yeah.
that socialization, even though we're virtual, it's still important, right?
Right. Right. Absolutely. You covered a lot. I want to make sure people remember the breadth of everything you're doing. So, not only are you taking care of active older adults with your programs and keeping them moving forward, as the tagline for our podcast is aging smarter. So these are people who are taking this advice and they're getting smarter, and which is helping them live a better life. You're also helping people who have very specific challenges: arthritis, osteoporosis, Parkinson's, dementia. You're training others to do this. So you're proliferating the goodness out there across the country. You're a national presenter at many different conferences. What else do you do, or something you'd like to share that maybe we haven't covered right now? And then, because you're also, doing your Zoom sessions, but you're also helping people wherever they call home, whether it's assisted
Right,
living or in their home or apartment or whatever it is.
right.
What didn't we cover that you want to make sure to share?
So I do have some clients that I train through. I have an app,
Okay.
and so it's available on their phone, on their tablet, is also an online portal. So
Hmm.
some of my clients just want me to upload a workout for them,
Hmm.
and I'm able to do that, like I said, through my app. And then when they log in and they go to the day, it takes them
Hmm.
through the workout. So there's
Got it.
pictures of the exercises. There's a little video of me showing them how to do the exercises, recommended
Hmm.
sets and reps. So that's more for an individual who is comfortable exercising,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
needs the guidance.
Yeah.
And so those people, I just update their calendar once a month. So I do
Yeah.
have that available
Perfect.
as well. And I'm not sure, I know you talked about I have education
Hmm.
beyond the active older adults, but I
Hmm.
have a course now called Dementia Client Strategies for
Oh,
Trainers,
yeah.
that I specifically focus on educating trainers to do what I do with clients with dementia. I really want to spread the word in the fitness
Hmm.
industry that there's so much that we can do to
Hmm.
help people dealing with dementia. And it's just a lot of it is unknown. It's not something that we're normally taught. So a lot of
Hmm.
fitness professionals don't look at that. But I would
Yeah.
really like to encourage more fitness professionals to help this population.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And what I will have is all of the ways to contact you. So whether you're a prospective client that would love to learn more on all the different dimensions on how you help people in person, on Zoom, or through the app, or you're an instructor who would love to upscale yourself to now serve all these different populations, and well, in all the ways to contact you through your website and email or phone number, however you like to do it. But I just want to say thank you so much, Deborah. What a wealth of knowledge. And, I always say this with the people that are on our podcast here, is that you're in this clearly because you care. You are deeply invested in not only the education, but you're giving of yourself. And it is a special calling because there's lots of different ways to make money here in the Silicon Valley, mostly in computers and, technology. And to really go all in on this type of work, it speaks volumes to who you are and giving of yourself, and you have a heart for this. And that's the people that's who I feel like I am. And that's the people who I try to surround myself with and hire as my employees. And so thank you and appreciate what you're doing for the community. So,
Thank you, Tom.
so thanks again for being on Synergy Sessions, Deborah, and thanks everybody. And if I would encourage you to contact Deborah, she will have all of her contact information in the show notes. And if you know somebody who would benefit from it, I would encourage you to share. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Take
Bye
care.
now. Thank you for joining us on the Synergy Sessions. We know you have a lot on your plate, so we really appreciate you spending the time with us today. If you found the information in this episode useful, please reach out to the guest or the resources in the show notes. I know they would appreciate it and would love to help. Also, if you have an idea for a future episode, please reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook or email us and let us know. We'd love to hear from you and provide information that's useful. Lastly, please remember, you don't have to do this alone.